Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, body shaming. Also, a judge strikes down transgender bans. And Dr. Bronner sees a fiscal cliff. He has an answer.
You handle those cubes like a monkey handles coconuts.
Gaming. Yes, gaming. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter, and all-around great guy at APR. How you doing?
Nice.
Hiya.
I like that. I like that introduction.
Well, you are, and you're dad to Andy Lou, and man, there's no higher honor as far as I'm concerned.
No, there's not. There's not. That's any day now I'm going to achieve my goal of stay-at-home dad, and y'all will never see me again.
Well, there you go. Well,
We never see you now.
You know, Dr. David Bronner, the head of the RSA, the Retirement Systems of Alabama, one of the smartest men you will ever meet on the face of the planet. And as far as a man who knows money, there is none smarter. He is a genius when it comes to managing money. He has made money for the retirement systems of Alabama when across the country, retirement systems have gone belly up time after time after time, and he has kept ours profitable. This past week, he came out in the Advertiser, the Advisor, which is the RSA newsletter, and lamented the fact, Susan, that the legislature did not pass the gaming legislation that came out of the House, and that even the supplemental one just failed by one vote. And he points out that we may not need the money right now, but in the next couple of years, all the COVID relief money is running out, and the state agencies will be back where they were, running out of money and bleeding money, and the good times will be over. And one thing he said, pass the gaming bill. That may not be a panacea, but it will put a lot of money in the coffers. And he called on Governor Ivey to call a special session. I agree with him 100%.
I do. Anything David Bronner says when it comes to money, you better listen. Because not only can he see what's going on currently, he can see into the future more than anybody I have ever met in my life as to how money's going to evolve. We're talking about $1.3 billion with a B. Which could have a substantial impact on the state of Alabama. And he said, and I believe what he said, that, you know, Ivey is one of the most beloved, effective governors we've had in my lifetime. And I think this is something that could really be a legacy for her. She just needs to call a special session, like he said, get it in there, you know, get the leaders together, get them to agree, and get it done.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I think he's absolutely right when he said that Governor Ivey, one of the first things she did was to raise the gas tax in Alabama against all odds. It hadn't been raised since the 80s, and she got it done because we needed it for infrastructure. And Josh, you've written about Dr. Bronner and what he was thinking. Tell us what's on your mind.
Yeah, no, when you have somebody who's smart and they've been around this since, I want to say he's been there since 73, I think, so he's been around a long time doing this. And he's seen a lot of things. So when he tells you that a dip is coming in revenue, you should probably trust that he's seen dips before and that he knows what's headed this way. And I don't think it takes, it probably doesn't even take somebody as smart as David Bronner to see what's coming when you start taking things out of out of the different funds like they have. The education trust fund is going to lose at least $100 million. And I think that's going to probably triple or quadruple over the next few years from the Choose Act. You have other things that have been cut out. I mean, even Arthur Orr himself has talked about all of these different cuts that have been that have come in to these budgets. And so, I think that when you have Bronner there kind of ringing the bell and saying, hey, listen, you need to pay attention to what's going on here. And you've got this thing over here that we're already doing because we're already gambling in this state. Okay. We just don't have the revenue from it. And you could offset, $1 billion or more in expenses by doing just simply taxing this thing and regulating it properly. Then why wouldn't you do it? It just makes sense to people who think like that.
And I think Governor Ivey should get it done because she can get it done. I think, though, that if this doesn't get done, this election cycle or this quadrennium, this will be a huge, huge issue in the 2026 governor's race.
It will be.
And down ballot races. There was the one representative who ran only on the fact that he would vote for a lottery and vote for gaming. And he won. Heartily won. And I think, this will be an issue. If I were running for governor or anybody running for governor next term, I would run and say, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure we pass a education lottery, get rid of illegal gaming, and expand gaming for the betterment of the state. And that is a winning issue.
It is. And I'm going to tell you this. It's among the people that I talk to, the voters that I talk to here in Atala, Alabama, it has become a joke. They have made it a pundit of that, well, we can't do that because, we don't have a lottery. We don't have a lottery. We don't have a lottery. So it's become a joke people are so sick of that they're ready to do anything.
Yeah. They want a lottery. But speaking of jokes, Tommy Tuberville continues his Putin rehabilitation crusade to the point that Lindsey Graham came out this past week and said that Tommy Tuberville does not represent the majority opinion of the U.S. Senate Republicans. He is an outlier. Lindsey Graham called him an outlier, and we've heard this time and time again. He is talking about Putin like he's some kind of peace-loving Russian buddy of ours. He's not. He's a thug, a bully, and a murderer. And Tuberville calls him a peace guy. But Lindsey Graham, who's been around the block a few times, said Tuberville's an outlier.
Well, Tuberville's trying for some sort of position in the possible Trump future administration. He said of Putin, he says he doesn't want Europe. Hell, he's got enough land of his own. The very reason he went into Ukraine is try to rebuild the Soviet Union back to where it was. I mean, we know the guy doesn't know, what the three branches of government are, but can you please pick up a history book? For once, please just pick up a history book.
Well, if Ukraine falls, we're likely to be in World War III, but Tommy Tuberville knows all about the military. Yeah. His dad fought communists, he said.
Did he now?
In World War II.
How about that?
We're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Body shaming, fat shaming, shaming has become sort of a norm in today's society, especially with cyberbullying being such a big deal. I was truly shocked when over at 1819 News stooped so low as to body shame Sarah Milliken, who is Miss National American Alabama. That's her title of the pageant she won. She is a larger woman. She's a young woman that is considered overweight by many, but she takes pride in her accomplishment, and we all should. But Susan, they did an article, they actually did two, that pointed out that she was obese, quoted the WHO, the World Health Organization, statistics on obesity, and also then came back later on and said, oh, well, she had to pay, or basically paid for her title. And it's just one of those things that they claim to be Christians, they claim to be conservatives. They went so low as to write two articles that made her look terrible because she didn't meet their standards of beauty, I guess.
Yeah, well, like you said, they don't need to point one finger at her because it points three back at some of the big old boys over there that don't have any business body shaming anybody else. But they have to understand, too, again, we go back to people that aren't educated. These contests are not just about if you're 34, 24, 34. They're about your accomplishments. They're about your intelligence level. They're about your talent. It's not just, these beauty contests are not, including the trademark Miss Alabama, are not just, oh, she looks hot.
Yeah.
That's not what this is about.
You know, I thought about, everything here, and it just, man, you look at you think about this girl, and she didn't hurt anybody.
No.
She didn't do anything wrong. She didn't, all she wanted to do was compete in a pageant that she's perfectly eligible to compete in. She did well enough at whatever were the rules and the guidelines to win. And she was proud of that accomplishment. And I don't know what anybody in the world gets from tearing that down.
No.
I don't understand how it makes you feel better. I don't understand how it makes you look better. I don't understand what joy you could possibly take from that at all in tearing her down or tearing down anybody else. I don't get it. I don't get the hatefulness. I don't get the spite.
Well,
And as far as paying for it, any beauty contest, whether it's for 1-year-olds or 21-year-olds, has fees involved.
Yeah,
They all
do. They do. I think it's interesting, though, that they went after her. That this was not political, and they claimed to cover other avenues of the news. This certainly wasn't political, unless you realize that many in the Republican Party, especially since 2016, have taken to this kind of bullying, sort of schoolyard bullying thing, calling women horse faces. And, I wouldn't sleep with her. She's not my type. When we hear that kind of talk coming out of leaders' mouths, it coarsens the discourse, but also gives people permission to be cruel and mean. But there you go. I do want to move on. IVF is lately in the news more than it should be. But this all started when the Alabama Supreme Court back in February decided that a frozen embryo, fertilized frozen embryo, is a person and deserves all the rights and benefits and privileges of a person. Now, that went over so well that the Alabama legislators went to work and Governor Ivey signed a bill that sort of circumvented that. Now, the court would not rehear the case to reconsider it. They're standing by their ruling. And just this past week, the Southern Baptist Convention, the largest Protestant group in the United States, has come out and they have passed a resolution that says IVF is wrong, that it shouldn't be, and you can guarantee they're going to work to go to the Supreme Court and have IVF ruled unconstitutional.
I've been looking forward to this. Subject because the CBS News YouGov poll recently showed that 86% of respondents are in favor of IVF. But if you don't like that one, in December, Kellyanne Conway, her firm ran a poll on this. You know, she was the former President Donald Trump's senior counselor and campaign manager. And of those that they were polled, 78% supported IVF among self-identified pro-life advocates, 83% among evangelical Christians. Now, I just want to take a little second because apparently these people don't understand how they just skip biology and sex ed class that they don't like. The egg starts here. The sperm meets here. Until it gets here, it has no chance of life. No chance of life, okay? So it's got to get here. This IVF is simply an intersection right in here to get to here.
You can show that on television, but you can't show it in Alabama classrooms.
That's my point. That's exactly
Josh,
my point.
we got a little bit less than a minute. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've said before, you know, the Alabama Supreme Court got this right. I don't say that very often, but you know, when they ruled on our laws, they interpreted our laws correctly. Mm-hmm. Our laws say that embryo is a person, and you must treat that person with all the same rights that you would a real live person. So I know everybody got mad at the Alabama Supreme Court, but for once, I swear to God, I'm doing this. I'm going to defend the Alabama Supreme Court and tell you they're not the problem here.
Fix
it's
the
all
law.
Of these things. The poor laws that were written by the idiots that write laws for us that were so gleeful to go completely pro-life on every single aspect of things. They wrote this stuff in a manner in which we have now screwed up IVF, and it's going to continue to be screwed up until we fix the law.
Fix the law.
And IVF is for people who sincerely want.
Yes.
They are very pro-life. They want to have children. But we're going to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
125 to 620.
As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
I mean, we're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. This past week, a U.S. district judge in Florida struck down a Florida law that outlawed care for transgender minor youths. This is very similar to the law that was upheld by the 11th Circuit Court in Alabama. Very, very, very similar bill. Judge Hinkle in Florida said, well, there's a difference between what happened in Alabama and what happened in Florida, because in Florida they argued that the reason for the bill was because of animus towards LGBTQ people and specifically transgender youth. And this is what the difference he said. But I would argue that that's exactly why they passed the law in Alabama, Now, all of this is going to go to the 11th Circuit. But, Susan, we watched this bill being passed. Had nothing to do with medical research or science. It had to do only with animus towards transgender.
It had only
kids.
to do with animus against children with gender dysphoria, and that they didn't consult doctors about that. They didn't really understand what the actual treatment is. It's just something that's they're afraid of. They don't really understand it, so they want to, put their name on it and say, "Ooh, look, champion of this," when they didn't even understand the underlying treatments, which are something as simple as puberty delay medication.
Right.
All right, puberty delay medication. That's, basically what we're talking about here. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the ultimate thing that we're talking about. And they didn't even know that was what it was.
But Josh, what Judge Hinkle said down in Florida is that they just hated these kids, basically. And it really became a political talking point right after the end of Roe v. Wade. The Republicans decided they needed another boogeyman, and transgender children seem to be a really obvious choice.
Yeah, well, I don't know that they so much hated them as they just didn't care about them. You're right. They needed a political boogeyman, and they were perfectly willing to sacrifice these kids to create one out of them, because most people don't know a family with a transgender child, much less a transgender child. And so that it's something that's out of the norm for most people. And so you can scare people into believing things when they don't understand it. And that's what was taking place here. A lot of lawmakers use this as a scare tactic to say, "Hey, they're mutilating children over here, against their will." And it was, it's a nonsensical explanation. As soon as you heard in Alabama, when the doctors went before the committees in this state and told people what the steps were, what the process was, everybody took a step back and went, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
But it didn't matter, because they had already created this political boogeyman, and they didn't care that they're sacrificing the most at-risk group of kids in the entire nation.
And interestingly enough, there really isn't that much difference between the bills. But now we have the 11th Circuit, which oversees Florida and Alabama. It has ruled that the Alabama law is okay. But now they're going to have to hear, because I'm sure Ron DeSantis is going to appeal to the 11th Circuit. So can we expect any different outcome, or is because they've argued the case differently based on animus and bias, will that make a difference in the 11th Circuit? I just don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea.
It'll certainly be interesting to watch, because you've got, basically the same thing. And how are they going to weigh that? And how are they going to, uphold their last decision and then have to consider this as well? I think we're going to end up in the U.S. Supreme Court with this one.
And I don't know that people have much confidence, Josh, in it going to the U.S. Supreme Court, given its current makeup, where we've seen, like, the Dobbs decision based on sort of these religious ideals, religious ideas, so I don't know that we'll see an end to this until we get elected officials who put a stop to the nonsense.
Yeah, I agree. I think going back to the question of whether this thing is going to be different at the 11th Circuit, I think it will probably turn on what statements were made publicly by the officials who were passing the laws.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's argued differently. And I'm assuming, having not read the full case, and that there were some comments that were made along the line that they cited that proved this point. I mean, I don't think a federal judge is just going to say, "Oh, well, they hated the kids and they passed the law."
No.
There were obviously some statements that were made, and so those things are going to be up in front of the 11th Circuit as well. And yeah, I think it's ultimately going to wind up in the Supreme Court. And no, I don't have any faith any longer in the Supreme Court. When they can't even decide what flag is flying outside their own home, I have very little faith in them being able to do anything else right.
And when Justice Alito got caught on tape saying that he wanted to insert his religion into his decisions.
Well, he didn't really say that.
That's what he meant.
Intimated it. But he did say only one side can win, and we know which side he's on. So this makes for a pretty scary time. And back to flags, okay? So recently, a pride flag for Pride Month, that's what this is, was hung over the Tuscaloosa Veterans Affairs Center, the home down there, the Community Living Center, to celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month. Well, some guy went and stole the flag, Susan, off the veterans flagpole. And these flags fly at lots of veterans' homes, lots of gay men and women who've served in the military, lots of gay veterans. But they stole the flag.
They stole the flag, and it was a flag that was donated, I believe, to them by a veteran in honor of LGBTQ veterans and active military. And so he stole it. Well, not only did he violate state law, he's now violated federal law.
Yeah.
Even though it was returned, it is still flying. He has violated both state and federal law. So it's going to be interesting to see what they actually did to this fella.
I mean, Josh, we're pretty low down when we go stealing flags off of places, But again, I was thinking about it today. I was driving a little bit, and I saw somebody. You got a pickup truck with a flag on the back nowadays, and people go, "Well, that's a Trump supporter." It didn't used to be the same, but because you got Trump flags everywhere on the United States national flag, people starting to relate the American flag to the Trump movement.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, I'd like to say, congrats to the VA and the federal folks for flying the flag and recognizing, the contributions of gay Americans and to the freedoms that we all have. Listen, there are a lot of people that fought valiantly. Pete Buttigieg comes to mind right now. That active duty and so many others. I mean, there are Navy SEALs and a variety of other folks that are out there, and we're free because of what they did. And nobody really cared about their sexual orientation while they were over there fighting for those freedoms. And so I think that they should be congratulated for flying the flag and recognizing it. And that idiot should serve the time that he deserves.
Well, and as former senator and presidential candidate Barry Goldwater once said famously, "I don't care if they are straight. I just want them to be able to shoot straight." Anyway, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.